Are you new to chopping? Welcome to Fiddelium, where we do a whole lot of chopping. So here's just some really basic exercises to help you develop this important skill. You're going to need to know how to do this to be in the group. So we know that a bow stroke is when we put our bow on the string and we pull or push, and the bow is perpendicular to the string. We also know from doing bow circles that we can land our bow on the string silently here. And again, my bow is still perpendicular to the string. That's not chopping because it doesn't make a sound. It makes a very little sound. So what we're after when we do a chop is we're going to take our bow hold and we're going to kind of flip the bow out like this. So you can see that I have my rounded fingers and my rounded thumb. And then to do a chop, I have to kind of straighten out my fingers because what I want is to kick that bow hair away from me. Okay, so when I'm playing, normally my hair is sitting vertically on the string, or my bow is sitting vertically on the string, and then when I'm going to chop, I need to get that hair to be pointing out away from me. Now the direction of the chop isn't simply along the length of the string this way, because that's not the sound we're after either. So it's not straight up and down, and it's not along the length of the string. When I come in for a chop, I'm kind of coming in at about a 45-degree angle, and it's a mix of this direction and this direction. So I'm going to go. Notice my fingers are just really lightly touching the strings here, because if I don't do that, I get this, which I don't want. So I'm just going to mute my strings, and I'm just going to straighten out my bow fingers and my thumb, and I'm going to come in at an angle and let the friction stop my bow. Lift, chop, lift, chop, lift, chop, lift. That's the timer telling me that it's time for me to make this video. Chop, lift, chop, lift, chop, lift, chop, lift. Okay? So the chop always has two components, a landing and a lift. And we want this to be very rhythmic. So if you're not hearing that sound, usually it means that you're going too vertical, or you're going this way, which is not the sound we're after. So you really want to get stuck to the string. And also notice how close I am to the frog. Lots of things to consider here. So you want to put on a metronome, you want to practice this with a metronome because it has got to be steady. Now sometimes we do a chop with a bow after it. So sometimes we go chop, lift, bow, lift, chop, lift, bow, lift, chop, lift. Watch my bow. Angled bow, flat bow. Angled, flat. Angled, flat. Angled, flat. Angled. Don't forget to mute your strings. Beautiful. Okay, so that's the basic chop pattern that we see pretty often in Fiddelium. There is another pattern that comes up in a tune that we play called Gaptooth. So what happens in Gaptooth, I'm not going to play the actual notes because different sections have different notes here. But basically what's going to happen is we're going to play in a jig. We have a chop, lift, chopped play. So we have a chop, lift, chop, play. So when I do this, I'm going to land my chop, lift my chop, land my chop, straighten up my bow, and play an up bow. Okay, so you see that there's always that angle change that happens, and I'm doing that, a lot with my thumb and my fingers. So that's what's happening. When I'm bowing, my fingers are going to be like this. You can see my thumb is bent. When I'm chopping, everything goes straight, and I come right back to this. Okay, so that's a chop, and that's a bow. Always keeping that thumb nice and round. Okay, there you go. This is a basic introduction to chopping. You're going to need to practice this. It does not come naturally.